Superficially, it seems the team simply finished another draft, added some young talent, and is moving on. But behind the scenes, decisions are being made that could completely reshape this roster, and perhaps even change the course of the 2026 season before it even begins. Because the truth is this, not all moves are being announced, not all intentions are being revealed, and there are still pieces missing that could define the success or failure of this team. And I'll say it right now, what I'm about to share might make you wonder if the Dolphins are closer to dominance or closer to another frustrating year. But before I explain all that, be sure to like this post right now if you truly believe this team is heading in the right direction. And I want to see something in the comments. Right, I believe in the Dolphins. 2026 is our year. If you stay optimistic, no matter what happens. Now let's get to what's really happening. The Dolphins clearly made an effort to address multiple areas in the draft. They brought in 2 offensive linemen, including Caden Proctor with their first pick, added a single cornerback in Chris Johnson, stacked the linebacker room, and loaded up on wide receivers like Jacob Rodriguez, Caleb Douglas, Chris Bell, and Kevin Coleman Jr. They also picked up tight ends Will Kazmarek and another developmental prospect, plus added depth pieces on defense including Trey Moore at edge and a safety late in the draft. On paper, that sounds like a complete haul. But when you look closer, you start to see the cracks. Edge rusher is still a major concern. Yes, Miami added bodies, but most of them came late in the draft. The big question is simple. Are any of these guys ready to make an immediate impact? That's far from guaranteed. The team is hoping for internal development, especially from players like Chop Robinson, but relying on potential instead of proven production is always a gamble. Then there's the safety position, and this might be the most alarming situation on the roster right now. Only one true safety was added during the draft, and there's a strong argument that this was already the weakest unit on the team even before the draft started. The lack of proven talent here could become a serious problem once the season begins. And don't overlook the offensive side. Even after drafting multiple wide receivers, there's still uncertainty. Chris Bell is coming off injury concerns, Caleb Douglas is more of a projection than a sure thing, and Kevin Coleman Jr., while exciting, is far from a finished product. This raises a critical question. Do the Dolphins really trust this group heading into week 1? What makes this situation even more intriguing is that the front office has already shown signs they're not done yet. There have been reports that Miami has reached out to veteran players and is monitoring the free agent market closely. However, they've also made it clear they don't plan to spend big money, which means any move will have to be strategic and cost-effective. And that's where things get really interesting. Names like A.J. Epineza have already been linked to the Dolphins, especially after a recent visit. He brings experience, size, and something this team desperately needs, reliability against the run. Considering Miami's struggles in that area, adding a player like him could quietly solve a major issue without breaking the bank. At safety, options are limited, but someone like Donovan Wilson could at least bring competition to a struggling unit. He's not perfect. In fact, his recent coverage numbers raise concerns, but that just highlights how thin the market is at that position. Then you have offensive weapons. David Njoku stands out as a potential upgrade at tight end, especially as a receiving threat, something Miami currently lacks. And at wide receiver, Jawan Jennings has drawn interest from the team, though his price tag could complicate things. So here's the reality, Dolphins fans, this team isn't finished. Not even close. The draft gave Miami depth, but not necessarily certainty. And now the pressure shifts to what happens next in free agency. Will they find the missing pieces? Or will they gamble on what they already have? Because if there's one thing that's clear right now, it's this. The Dolphins are walking a very fine line between a roster full of potential and a roster with critical gaps. The tension inside the building is undeniable right now, because while the Dolphins added volume in the draft, what they didn't clearly add was certainty at the most critical spots. And that's exactly why the front office is quietly evaluating every possible move still available on the market. Let's go deeper into what this really means for the team moving forward, because this isn't just about filling holes. It's about whether Miami can realistically take that next step toward being a true contender in 2026. Starting with the defensive side, the potential addition of a veteran edge like A.J. Epineza wouldn't just be about depth, it would be about stabilizing a rotation that currently feels unpredictable. You've got young players, you've got situational pass rushers, but what you don't have is a proven, consistent presence who can set the edge and stop the run at a high level. And that's where Epineza's profile becomes so intriguing. Over the last couple of seasons, he's actually improved more as a run defender than a pass rusher, and for Miami, that might be exactly what they need to balance this defense. But here's the bigger concern, even if you solve edge, what do you do about safety? Because right now, it's not just a weakness, it's a vulnerability that opposing offenses will target every single week. The addition of only one true safety in the draft says a lot, and while there's internal hope that some players can step up or adapt, that's a risky strategy. Bringing in someone like Donovan Wilson wouldn't guarantee success, but it would at least raise the floor of the group. And sometimes in the NFL, especially at a position like safety, raising the floor is just as important as chasing a high ceiling. Now shifting to the offense, this is where things could get really interesting. The idea of adding a receiving tight end like David Njoku could completely change how this offense operates. Right now, Miami has tight ends who can block and develop, but not necessarily someone who can consistently stretch the field or create mismatches in the passing game. Njoku brings that ability, and if his price drops into a reasonable range, this could be one of those under-the-radar moves that ends up having a massive impact. And then there's the wide receiver situation, which might be the most debated topic among fans right now. Yes, the Dolphins drafted multiple receivers. Yes, there's young talent there. But are any of those players ready to step into a reliable, high-volume role immediately? That's the gamble. That's the risk. And that's exactly why the reported interest in Jaylen Jennings makes so much sense. Jennings isn't just another receiver. He's physical, he's consistent, and he brings a level of reliability that this current group might not have yet. He's proven he can produce, with seasons of 900 and 600 yards and consistent touchdown production, plus his blocking ability adds another layer to his value. The problem? Money. Miami has made it clear they don't want to overspend, and unless his market drops significantly, this might remain just interest rather than a completed deal. So when you step back and look at everything, here's the real story. The Dolphins are being patient, calculated, maybe even a little cautious. They've built a foundation with this draft class, but they're leaving the door open for strategic additions, not splashy moves, but smart ones. Veterans who can come in, compete, and possibly elevate key areas without compromising the team's financial flexibility. And that approach? It can either look genius by mid-season, or it can backfire if these current weaknesses aren't addressed in time. Because in a league as competitive as the NFL, especially with the expectations surrounding Miami right now, good enough simply isn't good enough anymore. That's why the next few weeks are going to be critical. Every visit, every negotiation, every decision, it all matters. So now it's time to take this conversation even further with you. Do you trust the Dolphins to fix these remaining issues with smart free agency moves? Or do you think they're taking too big of a risk heading into the 2026 season? And if you were in charge, which player would you bring in right now to change the direction of this team? And if you've made it this far, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and check out the next video on your screen because we're just getting started covering everything happening with the Miami Dolphins. And this is where things start to get even more intriguing, because when you look beyond the headlines, you begin to understand that the Dolphins are not just building a roster, they are carefully managing a transition. A transition between potential and reality. The draft brought in numbers, it brought in youth, it brought in competition. But what it didn't guarantee was immediate impact across the board. And that's the key detail a lot of fans are overlooking right now. This team is betting on development, on internal growth, and on